So the feminist movement, it's not the same as it was when it was about women's suffrage. Believe me, most of those women back then wouldn't even support the feminist movement today. And I'm sure many feminists wouldn't care about that. But it's your movement the most that's been infiltrated. Yeah, I've said before, I said they're using, the wicked are using they're using your groups, just like unions do, to push a certain agenda that in the end will not serve you. It will screw you over. Now, you don't have to believe that. You can stay in your ego and say, I'm just some conservative who supports Trump and I don't know what I'm talking about. Go ahead and do that. But look at the overall, look at what the feminist movement represents. And if you didn't know, and I don't think many people do know, because there's radical feminism, there's social feminism, there's liberal feminism, there's Marxist feminism. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ones. And really, they all kind of overlap. So here's radical feminism is a perspective within feminism that calls for a radical reordering of society in which male supremacy is eliminated in all social and economic contexts, while recognizing that women's experiences are also affected by other social divisions such as race, class, and sexual orientation. The ideology and movement emerged in the 1960s. Boy, that sounds like a lot of the problems we're dealing with today. The people pushing the racial bullshit, the people pushing gender bullshit. Yeah, I mean, that's of course why I wouldn't align with it. Me personally, radical feminists view society fundamentally as a patriarch in which men dominate and oppress women. This is the reason then these women, they have this they have such hate at men. Like a lot of these women, it's true. There's those ones where it's like if a man rejects them, then they'll do everything they can to get even with them. There's women like that. Yeah. So if that's what if you want to get all over, you want to jump all over me, I would ask you to reflect. Unless you're in that camp and you're trying to destroy America, then there's no like reasoning with you. But for those that are in the feminist movement that have common sense, I would just ask before you go attacking me to just sit back and reflect for a moment. Do you even know what your movement serves? Because I read yesterday, it's all about just changing gender stuff. I can't believe that everybody in the feminist movement supports all that stuff. So that's the reason I'm not a grouper. Radical feminists seek to abolish the patriarch in a struggle to liberate women and girls from an unjust society by challenging existing social norms and institutions. This struggle includes opposing the sexual objectification of women. Then why do you don't want to be objected in a sexual way? Then why does your movement do it? Like I did that short video to the music where it shows women, in front of Congress, women, maybe even some men, I don't know, dressed up as a vagina. Like that just... How can, first of all, you be wanted to be taken seriously acting that way? And second of all, how can you expect to anybody to believe what you're standing for when you're objectifying yourself as it is? Raising public awareness about such issues as rape and other violence against women, challenging the concept of gender roles. Yeah, well... Yeah, look at where it's gotten us, challenging the concept of gender roles. Then there is liberal feminism. This is a main branch of feminism defined by its focus on achieving gender equality through political and legal reform within the framework of liberal democracy and informed by a human rights perspective. Yeah, this one I have trouble with this gender equality. I used to think it was, it was at one point it was about, equal pay, right? Okay, I get that. But there's many women that make way more than men do too. So it's like when you really look at it and not look at it just based on gender, it kind of evens itself out. But then the gender equal became, well, a woman can do whatever a man does. Okay, well, I don't agree with that. I don't. I think there's special things that men were meant to do, and I think that the same holds true for women. And I actually prefer it that way, because when you make it all about we're just one gender, then don't you think it takes your individual uniqueness away? Again, this is why I'm not a grouper. So that's liberal feminism. The liberal feminist places great emphasis on the public world, especially laws, political institutions, education, and working life, and considers the denial of equal legal and political rights as the main obstacle to equality. No, one of the problems we really have with equalities is, this is why I've never been in that liberal camp, is because they have this view, and they're, it's a free country, but that we need more government because that will bring more equality. No, it doesn't. It brings more tyranny. If you are in that feminist group and you cannot see that, then you either don't want to see it because you're more of the liberal commie than anything else, or it's because you just haven't thought about it. But seriously, you cannot, as long as you have so much government intervention in things, then what ends up happening is things get worse. Because the federal government doesn't fix things. They never have. They don't. You can demand it all you want. The fact is that, think about it, if you wiped away the government today and just had, a basic government, really it would be dependent on each person. Like, yeah, you're going to have to find your way. Your community helps you, whatever it is. That's part of what annoys me with the whole demanding no government step in and do this, and government step in and do that. And I often, this is why I haven't stood with liberals, is that I often think, well, what have you done in your community to help that, like fix that? Instead, you just want to demand that government come in and fix it all. Whoops, sorry, hold on. I'm back. So that's liberal feminism. Social feminism is a feminist movement that advocates for social rights and special accommodations for women. It was first used to describe members of the women's suffrage movement, which was the women fighting for the right to vote in the 19th century. So, social feminism is a feminist movement that advocates for social rights. That can be that's why these all overlap. And then there's TERF. I don't think a lot of people have heard of this because I hadn't. That's an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. First recorded in 2008, the term originally used to distinguish transgender inclusive feminists from a group of radical feminists and social conservatives who reject the assertion that trans women are women, including trans women in women's spaces and transgender rights legislation. Trans-inclusive feminists who support trans feminism assert that these TERF ideas and positions are transphobic and discriminatory and towards transgender people. The use of the term TERF has since been broadened to include references to people with trans-exclusionary views who are not necessarily involved. Though TERF was created to be deliberately technically neutral description, the term is now typically considered derogatory or disparaging. People labeled as TERFs often reject the label, instead describing their beliefs as gender critical. Yeah, it was created by somebody that was gender cis, whatever I still don't know what that means. I really don't care, quite frankly, because it goes off the rails. It's all gone off the rails. If you haven't noticed, whether you're feminist or not, it's all gone off the rails. And why? Because everybody wants this gender, that gender, they're supporting me. No. And all these people in these groups, they're using you. They are using your cause to really not care about your cause. They'll tell you they care about it. They don't. They don't. Because if they did, they wouldn't have made a mockery of the women's movement, where you're now proud to put on that I'm trashy and I'll wear a vagina in Washington to push my cause. Ridiculous.